everyone, my name is Natalie if you're not familiar with me, and I want to start off by saying thank you so much for trusting me with a few minutes of your time. I am here today to talk to you about starting a home yoga practice in times of stress or distress and ways that you can maybe enhance your practice outside of the home. So the first thing that I want to talk about is some props or things that you may need at home or may think that you need, and potentially that you don't have some variations for those props. The first thing is a yoga block. Now, it goes without saying that most of the time we practice yoga on a yoga mat. If you are accustomed to practicing in the studio most of the time, you may be used to using a mat at the studio. If you don't have a yoga mat at home, no worries. There's plenty of experienced yogis that don't even practice with a mat at all. They just use the surface that they have to deal with. I just would caution you, if you're working with hardwood or cement or anything like that, to maybe use a towel to pad hands and knees in situations when they're going to be touching the surface for long periods of time. But a yoga block is a fairly handy tool that you're accustomed to seeing in most yoga studios. The purpose of the yoga block is to bring the surface closer to you, often to support postures. Sometimes it is to make postures more accessible. Sometimes it's to make postures more challenging. However, this is a foam block. I do have a cork block as well. There's different types depending on what your local studio uses. But this can be replaced with a book, a stool, an ottoman, a sofa, just anything that you can use for support. So any poses that you're used to using a block to lift up out of, maybe just consider seeing what you have around the house that resembles this shape or may serve the same purpose. I recommend maybe spending a little bit of time gathering your supplies before beginning your practice, so that way you don't get into your practice and realize you may need a little support and have to put your thinking brain back on in order to find something that will serve that purpose. One thing that I'm sitting on right now is a yoga blanket. Yoga blanket is pretty self-explanatory. We use it a lot of times for padding our knees. We use it to lift our sitting bones up, which is what I'm doing now, but it's just a blanket. It is definitely nice to have the typical Mexican blanket that you see at the studios. You can somewhat have a sacred connection to these specific blankets that you use just for your practice. But a beach towel will do. The blanket that's draped over your sofa right now will do. Even just a sweatshirt that can pad the surface or lift you up will work just fine. Anything that's fabric and squishy and does the same and feels the same as that yoga blanket is going to assist you in your practice. Again, this is something I would recommend gathering before starting practice, just so you make sure that you have everything that you need to feel comfortable and at home. Nothing disrupts your practice like having to come out of the flow in order to find something to pad your knees or your hands, so on and so forth. I also have a meditation cushion. Meditation cushion is great. It's something that is a trigger for me to start my meditation practice. However, it's also just a pillow. So you can use a pillow from your sofa, you can use a pillow for your bed. Again, the purpose is to lift your sitting bones up so that you're able to sit more comfortably. Additionally, behind that is a yoga bolster, also just an oddly shaped pillow. So for some more restorative poses, restorative classes, you may want a pillow or something similar to just help you rest, or again to pad the surface and lift you up. So consider what kind of odd pillows you have around your house. Again, this is not something that's going to make or break your home practice. It's just something of comfort that you can have close by. The last thing as far as props go is a yoga strap. Now, I've got an infinity strap here. It makes the infinity shape, but you've probably seen just the regular long straps in your yoga studio, which also mimics a belt, a scarf, or the belt off of your robe. So anything like that can work just as well. So there's a lot of tools that we're used to having as comfort in our practice, and the last thing that I want you to feel like you have to do is to rush out and purchase a lot of things in order to start your practice. So with that being said, we have all of our tools. I want to give you a few helpful tips if you're not used to practicing via video, whether it's a live stream class, a pre-recorded class, or anything where you're needing to look at a screen. Often, we come into a yoga class in order to check in and sort of check out of the outside world. bringing everything back in, releasing all external sensations. However, that can be challenging when we're needing to use our computer, our TV, or our phone in order to actually do our practice. So I have a couple of tips for you there if you're struggling to, quote, get into the zone of your yoga practice. The first thing may seem kind of self-explanatory, but I find myself forgetting to do it more often than not. If you're using your phone to stream your practice, make sure you've put it on either airplane mode or do not disturb. It's so disrupting to your practice. I don't know if you're anything like me, but as soon as I see a notification pop up, I need to see if it's some sort of emergency. So just make sure that those notifications are not popping up on your phone. If you are able to go into a room where you can sort of let all the other distractions be pushed away, then please do that. However, let's be realistic. Moms that are at home with small children, that are homeschooling, there's a whole lot going on in homes right now, and so that may not be a possibility. So my advice when it comes to that is to use this as an opportunity to be able to tune into that yoga just a little bit deeper. I found it super frustrating for myself to get into my practice and then all of a sudden someone needs lunch or someone needs a glass of milk or all of these things. But how can we use these as opportunities, as tools to create the yoga off the mat and to be a little bit stronger and a little bit more present into our practice? So as far as distractions go, do the best that you can, but recognize that yoga is not perfect. It is a practice. It is a practice. We will never complete it. Once we do the yoga, there's always more yoga. As far as actually looking at your screen, I want you to be mindful of craning your neck to look at the screen to see what your instructor is demonstrating or talking about. One of the positives of having a recorded yoga class is you can hit that pause button. So if you need to pause or rewind because the instructions weren't clear or you weren't exactly sure how to enter a pose, then step out of the pose, watch the screen, and then you can rewind if you need to. This way, we're not creating any extra aches and pains in our neck by taking our spine out of alignment. I know as an instructor myself, when I've been demonstrating poses and been looking out at my class, that it's a little bit tricky there and can cause some injury as well as some aches and pains that we definitely don't want to have from our yoga practice. So try to be mindful of where you set your device, your screen up. Make sure it's in a pretty good place for you to be able to see, and make sure the volume is turned up enough so that you can actually hear the instructor. If at all possible, again, it's not always safe depending on what's going on in your home at the moment. Maybe just place some earbuds in if you have any Bluetooth earbuds so that you can have the sound directly in your ear so that you can sort of feel like the teacher is talking to you, straight to you, and only you. It's a challenge as teachers, and it's been an opportunity to really hone in on teaching skills to be able to teach all online. Normally in a yoga classroom situation, teachers are able to come over to you individually and offer suggestions and adjustments and assist, and that's not possible right now. So hopefully you're studying with a teacher that is working really hard to be clear and concise in the cues, and they're setting you up for success in your poses. But we all recognize that we have the tendency to say, what was that? And just glance over. So just be mindful of that and maybe step out of the pose before you start looking at your device. Lastly, if you choose to play your own music, again, just be mindful of being able to hear your instructor. I have taken a few live stream classes here lately myself, and I've wanted to have my yoga tunes going, but it's kind of been competing with the actual class. So use it as an opportunity to really just focus on your practice, and if you want to do some freeform yoga later, then by all means, listen to your music. So those are just a couple of my tips for doing some online yoga classes right now in this moment. The last thing that I want to talk about is having difficulty making the space and the time and the attention for your practice. I don't know if you're anything like me, you may have found it difficult to really settle into a 60 or 90 minute class as of lately. So what I want to remind you of is in the Yoga Sutras, we are told that the best way to create our own bliss is by staying consistent. It says nothing about length. So in other words, consistency for a short amount of time is going to serve us better mentally, physically, and emotionally than stressing out over trying to get in a 60 or 90-minute practice. A lot of us are busy running things at home, homeschooling children, perhaps working at home, or perhaps you're an essential worker to where your hours and your schedule has just all of a sudden been turned upside down on its head. So I want to encourage you to recognize your situation and your circumstance, and maybe if you could just dedicate 10 minutes a day to your practice, that you're still going to receive those physical, mental, and emotional benefits as you did a month or 2 months ago in the 60 to 90 minutes of your practice. I'm finding so much relief in being able to step on my mat and actually focus and practice for 10 to 20 minutes versus trying to white knuckle it through a 60-minute practice where I'm very much aware that I'm checking out. So just be mindful of when you are checking out and just acknowledge that you're human. That's okay. Just step away from your mat. I promise you it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be right there for you later in the day or the next day. I just want to encourage you to step on your mat at some point every single day to provide a little bit of relief. If you're new to yoga, I know a lot of people are tuning into yoga and meditation right now as a way to tap into stress relieving practices and things of that nature. I just want to welcome you and encourage you to just keep trying. Practicing at home is a way to really let the ego go. I know so many of us get caught up in ego when we're in the public studio. We're worried about the teacher watching us, our neighbor watching us, or we're looking at the other student. This is an awesome opportunity to really hone into your own personal practice. No one's watching but you. So if you want to try things that you may not have tried in a yoga classroom, go for it. Just be mindful, intentional, and be slow and gentle with yourself. Or if there are things that you want to back out of that you may not have backed out of in a public classroom, honor what you need in this moment. This is an amazing opportunity to really practice the real yoga until we can all get back together in the classrooms again soon. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you will continue to watch this video series on ways that you can cope with your yoga practice at home. Until next time, namaste.